Good evening, everyone. It is Thursday, June 26th. It is now 5:30 p.m. and I will call the Salem Area Mass Transit District Board meeting to order. Clerk of the Board, will you please note attendance for a quorum? And I know that Director Holmstrom will be joining us a little bit later. And I'll pass it over to our General Manager for a safety minute.
Great, thank you very much. Since June is the beginning of summer, I thought I would share some summer driving tips for you this evening. As summer kicks into gear, roads get busier with people on vacation, cyclists, motorcyclists, and kids enjoying their breaks. Stay alert behind the wheel, distractions can wait. Be mindful of speed limits, increase your following distance, and always check your blind spots, especially in areas with heavy pedestrian or bike traffic. Hot temperatures can take a toll on your vehicle as well. Check your tire pressure regularly, ensure fluids are topped off, and don't ignore warning lights. A quick maintenance check can go a long way in preventing a breakdown. And if the summer heat or traffic sounds like more than a hassle that it's worth, leave the driving to the professionals and ride the bus. That concludes my safety message.
Thank you very much. I don't believe we have any announcements or changes to the agenda, so we'll move right into our presentations. Climate Action Plan Strategy Review. General Manager?
Yeah, thank you. I'd ask Bobby Kidd, our Strategic Initiatives Administrator, please come forward and open the meeting.
Good evening, President Host Pressey, members of the board. I'm thrilled to be here this evening with Kayla and Serene from Cumming Group. They're here to discuss the draft list of strategies for the climate action plan we are developing. This plan aims to decarbonize operations and to bolster operational and infrastructural resilience to the impacts of climate change. The intent of this review tonight is to begin vetting and refining these draft goals and strategies by assessing whether they are possible to implement and whether or not they fall within the district's sphere of control and influence. I will now hand it over to Kayla with Cumming Group. Thank you very much.
One second. We can't hear you right now. Can you try again? Nope, not yet. Do you have a mic attached to your headset? Is it down?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
How about now?
Okay, there we go.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'll just hold tight for a second here.
Oh, okay, you are good to go.
Okay. Okay, good. No feedback that time. Well, thank you everyone for having us in dedicating time again to discuss this topic. My name is Kayla Kraus. I'm the project manager with Cumming Group, leading our work with Cherriots on the Climate Action Plan. And with me is Serene Raslin. She's our project coordinator and has been supporting all elements of the project as well. And yeah, as Bobby said, tonight we're going to be starting with a brief presentation to first share the themes from the stakeholder visioning sessions, to then review the preliminary goals and strategies for the Climate Action Plan, and then we'll have a discussion with you to keep kind of vetting those ideas, get insight into the board's strategic priorities for the Climate Action Plan, and start to come together on agreement for that broader strategic approach that we are proposing. Next slide. Okay, and actually go one more. Perfect. So to begin, we'll share a summary of the stakeholder engagement process and themes from those visioning sessions. Next slide. Since I'll be, using a lot of terminology again tonight, I just want to quickly put this short list of definitions back on screen. We shared this with you before, but you'll, be hearing us use some of these terms: greenhouse gases, climate change in particular, carbon footprint, and then climate mitigation, adaptation, and resilience. Next slide. And to start, you've seen us talk about some of these things before, but as a refresher, the Climate Action Plan is really informed by these kind of three components of work that we've completed so far. When we were in front of the board in March, we presented on the outcomes of these first two, which were our analysis of policy drivers, greenhouse gas emissions modeling, and also Cherriots' vulnerability to climate risk. So the third component, stakeholder engagement, is really ongoing throughout the project. It's part of what has brought us to the board before and also today. Next slide. As far as our engagement approach, again, just kind of a refresher on what we shared last time. During that first round of stakeholder engagement that was in this spring, that really focused on visioning and those conversations about what do you want this plan to look like. So we heard from a lot of internal and external stakeholders listed here, and that of course included the board. Next slide. And we also engaged the greater Salem-Keizer community through a public visioning survey about local experiences with climate-related changes in Cherriots' role in climate action. So to start today, we wanted to share more about some of our findings from the survey and overall themes from those engagements so you can kind of understand how that plays into the recommended strategies that we're proposing. With the public survey, we had 137 responses, which included 14 folks from Cherriots, both staff, a member of the Community Advisory Committee, and then actually one board member. So thank you for participating in that survey. And it was provided in both English and Spanish. We publicized it through quite a few different outreach channels. That included Cherriots social media posts, physical sandwich boards at the transit centers in both languages, and then also in person at the Marion County Earth Day event and Cherriots Bike Month kickoff. We also did a big push to communicate about the survey in the Cherriots newsletter, and we think we got a lot of responses from that ultimately. Our goal for the survey was originally 100 responses, so we were actually really excited to surpass that and pleased with the number of people who we were able to engage through this method, and honestly we're interested in this topic. So just to quickly understand the data and talk about any response bias before we provide those numbers. I'll just say that we did compare the respondent demographics from this survey to those from Cherriots community value and customer satisfaction surveys. And I'll just say that the survey is a little bit biased in terms of the responses we got towards kind of older, slightly less diverse respondents. But it does actually have a much higher female response rate than male, which is kind of interesting compared to those other surveys. We asked about ridership levels, and those were actually within a similar range to Cherriots' other surveys. So we can kind of keep that in mind in interpreting the data. So the exciting part, what we found is that 46% of people responding to the survey were actually very concerned about the impacts of climate change, with another 19% who were, somewhat concerned. So that's about 2/3 kind of total who are, worried about this topic in the community and engaged, of course. We also asked questions, about had people experienced some form of extreme weather connected to climate change while living in the Salem-Keizer area. And with that question, we had almost everybody said that they had actually felt some of these changes in the community. They listed things like extreme hot and cold temperatures, heavy precipitation and flooding, smoke events from wildfires and the air quality that's impacted from that, and then also more intense and frequent storms, both wind, thunder, and lightning as examples. A third of the respondents also shared that those types of extreme weather from climate change had actually impacted their decision to ride or not ride with Cherriots. So in some cases, they chose to ride Cherriots because of the weather, citing that they had confidence in the bus drivers to safely get them to their destination. So I really appreciate at the Safety Minute and talking about relying on the professionals if you're not sure about driving. That was actually really reflected in this survey. And then in other cases, there were people who chose not to ride Cherriots because of the weather. And they shared examples like, not wanting to have to wait, in a heavy downpour or, really cold or really hot weather. They also, mentioned with some of those cases like flooding or snowstorms, a higher likelihood of delayed buses, and kind of anticipating that they chose not to ride Cherriots. So some different ways that climate change and impacts from that are affecting Cherriots ridership already, both good and bad. And so when we asked within the survey what should be Cherriots' role in climate action, there were kind of three top responses, and those focused on firstly increasing transit ridership to get more cars off the road and thus reduce emissions. Secondly, providing transit to heating and cooling shelters in the community, so essentially places where people can seek relief from extreme heat or extreme cold if their home isn't able to provide that for them. And thirdly, a big one for Cherriots in that kind of perspective on what Cherriots should be doing is transitioning to low or zero emissions vehicles, which of course you're already doing a lot of work in that area. And then finally, I'll just say that we also found that respondents were very aware of Cherriots' electric and natural gas fleet. I think that's likely from the really great bus wraps on the electric buses, where it's very clear that those are unique. And people did say they wanted to know more about what Cherriots is doing to adapt to climate impacts. So I think all of these things together, really great reasons that Cherriots is pursuing this work. And we'll move on to the next slide, where combined, between the survey and just all those stakeholder engagements where we're talking with Cherriots partners and internal groups, the themes that really stood out, kind of going on the list here, ridership, fleet diversification, infrastructure resilience, your marketing, partnerships, being able to show your progress and communicate that progress, and then also this kind of operational sustainability theme. So you'll see these really reflected in the goals that I'll present on next. Next slide. So the Climate Action Plan, you can go back one to the yellow slide. Perfect. So the Climate Action Plan's framework uses kind of three tiers that you'll see in these next slides that I'm presenting. So firstly is going to be goals, and those really frame the strategies and kind of present those thematic groupings along the lines of what I just shared. Below the goals are the strategies, so those are both going to be your short and long range approaches to achieving the goals. And then finally, actions will be kind of the practical steps to advancing the strategies that Cherriots staff can go and actionize. At this time, we are just presenting on the goals and strategies that have been developed. Once they've been vetted and refined and finalized in collaboration with Cherriots through these sessions, then we'll start working on building out those actions and what those next steps are. Okay, next slide. So in addition to reflecting the themes from the stakeholder engagements, the strategies also, you'll see kind of three different approaches to climate action baked into those. So the first being things that impact the direct emissions from Cherriots fleet and infrastructure. So that's kind of the climate mitigation side of things and reducing those directly. The second is going to be things that tie to behavioral change, focused on and focusing on increasing ridership to reduce regional greenhouse gas emissions. So again, that concept of things that shift people from their car to the bus and are getting them off the road in their single occupancy vehicle. And then thirdly, really, focusing on climate adaptation and resilience for Cherriots infrastructure. So you'll see kind of those three different angles within these as well. And I'll just mention too, the board supplement that was provided also identifies which of kind of these climate impact approaches aligns with each strategy and some of the anticipated co-benefits that I'll talk about some as we go through this. There are 7 sets of goals and strategies. So as I run through each, I'll pause after each one and just kind of see if there's any immediate questions or comments before moving on, and then we'll be able to have a discussion looking at the big picture of all the strategies together. We can always go back and talk about them some more. And then, yeah, just as a reminder, we're really hoping to get some of that kind of agreement on this broader strategic approach and hear your insights on really whether these are the right areas to focus on and continue working towards. All right, so let's go on to the next slide, which is the first goal within this, and that is to grow ridership to reduce regional greenhouse gas emissions. So like I shared, kind of this one, I think you can probably tell it is very focused on emissions reduction, but it is from that kind of regional perspective as opposed to Cherriots' direct emissions. Within that, we have 4 strategies. The first one is to improve service frequency, span, and coverage. We know this is something that Cherriots is working on through the service enhancement work. So that's reflected within these strategies and could look at how to connect those plans together. The second is to enhance first and last mile infrastructure and service, looking at things like bike rack, and I would say this kind of supports some of the micro mobility work as well. Number 3 is to invest in safety and comfort for, looking at your bus stops, providing lighting, real-time travel info, with the reasoning behind this that, improving rider comfort and safety is going to help get more people on the bus. And then finally, number 4 is to use some of that kind of more positive marketing, focusing on cost savings for people, their safety, being able to rely on that really great bus driver to get them to their destination, to help drive ridership, and to run some campaigns kind of specifically around that, and even looking at emissions avoided by taking transit. So this is more on that behavioral side. So I will just pause here and just see if there are any immediate questions, but we'll certainly have opportunity to talk about that at the end.
I think you're good to continue. I don't see any questions.
Okay. Thank you, Bobby. Okay, we'll go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is now goal 2, to deploy a diversity of decarbonization technologies to reduce fleet emissions. So this is definitely an important one for Cherriots in terms of the directness of the goal and the strategies here, really focused on those emissions reductions from the fleet, of course. So within that, the first strategy to continue to transition the fleet to a balanced mix of battery electric, renewable diesel, and RNG vehicles. Also maybe exploring some options for hydrogen or other fuel sources as they become available, because we did really hear through all of this, right, that not putting all your eggs in one basket, namely, electric buses, will help improve fleet and operational resilience. So we wanted to put that strategy forward. Second, within this category is to build in life cycle emissions and cost analysis into your vehicle procurement to be able to look at kind of those long-term pieces in your procurement. And then thirdly, to evaluate the feasibility of various idling reduction technologies for use at transit centers and depots where there is extended bus idling, whether that's during layovers or during maintenance and cleaning. So ways to be able to, if a driver, is stopped and they're keeping the bus on so that they can stay warm during that break, if it's really cold in the winter, for example, ways to not just have the bus fully running during those times. I'll pause again before I continue, and Bobby, you can let me know if there's any questions.
We have one. No? Oh, okay.
Okay.
Oh, never mind. You are good to continue.
That's okay. Great. Yeah, and I'm happy to just kind of keep running through these, and then we can, again, like I said, have that discussion after I've gone through all 7, if that's
That sounds
approach.
good.
Okay, great. So we'll pivot. On to the next slide. This will be goal 3. Build and retrofit transit infrastructure and operations facilities where possible to help support climate and energy resilience. So within this, the focus is really on that kind of climate adaptation and resiliency aspect of your physical assets. The first strategy being to invest in shaded and cooled waiting areas. So looking at your bus stops, park and rides and transit centers, having more covering there. Thinking about other things like whether there's the opportunity to add heating or misting, drinking fountains. And if you think back to when we presented kind of on the climate impacts, we showed a heat map and lined that up with some of Cherriots park and rides and their transit centers. And we did see that there are some areas where people are going to be waiting, and they're kind of areas where there's a lot of pavement, which really increases the heat in those areas. So thinking about how you can keep your riders comfortable when they're waiting for the bus within that one. Number 2 is to make climate-ready enhancements to climate-critical facilities to protect against flood, heat, and power outage. So really, that resiliency aspect. And number 3, to partner with local utilities around energy sourcing, charging infrastructure installations, backup power generation, and we've been continuing to look at things like rooftop solar if you do have new facilities or are able to invest in older facilities too. And number 4 within this third goal is to utilize green building design for new or renovated facilities and to identify opportunities for energy efficiency upgrades. You can use frameworks like LEED to inform your building practices, whether or not you do pursue certification for those facilities, for example. Okay, next slide, which is goal number 4. That is to increase community engagement and strengthen messaging around transit as climate action. So we talked about increasing ridership is one of the goals, but I think this is kind of a supportive goal in the sense that it is still kind of driving ridership, but getting people now to understand and think about that action as a climate response and action in itself. So the first strategy would be to conduct targeted outreach, by audience, looking at youth, low-income areas, employers, and partners in health and emergency sectors. You can also, as a secondary strategy, within kind of some of that messaging approach, look at framing transit as a community health and resilience asset. So again, kind of getting some more public support from that, driving behavior change and getting more people on the bus. And then thirdly, implementing sustainability-focused communication initiatives, whether that's art contests where, think of the youth art campaign where there's really great drawings from youth kind of expressing how they see Cherriots and how Cherriots is supporting environmental goals. you can have like carbon savings notifications in the Rider app, a sustainability section in the newsletter, the TransDash dashboard that's getting updated, looking at putting in a climate piece there. So lots of cool options there, honestly. And moving on to the next slide, this is going to be goal number 5, to establish and grow partnerships with regional governments and employers to promote your climate action and adaptation. So really, to boil it down, right, this is the kind of partnerships goal. The first strategy being to engage employers to boost commuter programs and incentives. I know that there's some work at Cherriots on this already, so continuing to do that, but tying it in kind of with the climate action plan and strategies here. Number 2 is to partner with local jurisdictions on transit-oriented and climate-friendly development, looking at really trying to keep housing and transit together so that communities can be more efficient and more connected, which also, in turn reduces emissions with less travel. Number 3 is to support local partners in climate goals related to transportation. So I'll just kind of call out here, the City of Salem's Climate Action Plan, for example, as we know, has several strategies within it that Cherriots is connected to. So this strategy in particular kind of harkens the other direction and ties this plan to places where Cherriots is supporting others and has some shared goals. And then finally, number 4 within this goal is to integrate transit plans into local and regional resilience and health frameworks as part of that emergency response coordination. Okay, next slide, which is goal 6 now. And that is to establish and monitor progress towards milestone greenhouse gas emissions targets. Again, on that kind of theme of tracking and showing progress. Here, the proposed strategies are to have some really clear targets associated with climate and emissions reductions. Secondly, to integrate climate metrics into some of the agency's KPIs and decision frameworks, and as well as performance measures. And then thirdly, within these strategies is to be able to do some of those calculations around avoided emissions from transit and be able to track emission savings to get a kind of even better picture of where Cherriots is at and will be going. Next slide. So this is now goal 7 of 7, which is to institutionalize sustainability and climate action across Cherriots. So this is really now focused on some internal pieces. The first of the strategies to prioritize green procurement for office needs and operations. And while that's not as directive a scope for Cherriots, we did hear quite a lot through that visioning process that there was interest in Cherriots' administrative and operational functions also having sustainability aspects. So we've included that here. Tied to that is the second strategy, which is to offer annual staff training on climate and sustainability principles, and to tailor that kind of between administrative roles and operations staff, so it's really relevant for each of those groups. And I'll just say, with all of these two, I think they really support kind of that cultural change for your staff within Cherriots and to build empowerment as they start to understand these opportunities better. They can help, call out new ideas and certainly make sure that the ones that you are pursuing are going to be more successful because there's that kind of working knowledge and shared purpose there. And then thirdly, within this set of strategies is to develop, a steering committee and or, hire for a role focused on climate action and sustainability. We know there is kind of an existing sustainability committee, but to give them potentially some new direction and build that out further would I think help these strategies flow out. And then number 4 is to incorporate sustainability into kind of the budgeting process to ensure that any initiatives or projects that we're talking about here are supported budgetarily, and that they are included in action plans across departments. All right, so next slide, and that is really just kind of our introduction now for the discussion. We do have some questions prepared for you, but since we kind of kept going through those strategies, I want to start with any kind of broad comments or reflections or questions from that part of the presentation before we continue with specific questions here.
Director Duncan?
Thank you very much. Thank you for your presentation and for all of the work. This is quite extensive. I just wanted to call out, I love that you specifically use the terminology for life cycle emissions. For anybody who may not know what that means, it means from the very moment that the item is made, so not just the time that it spends on the road, but what it takes to create it, et cetera. And so I think that in the sustainability space, you talk about that, the entire life. I don't know if anyone's seen the very viral YouTube video about the story of stuff, and I think that kind of was born out of that movement. And so I appreciate that that's something that we're including here because, I don't know, I've been in a lot of meetings where it kind of gets omitted. The next item I wanted to say was under Goal 4. I saw that the art contest thing, that's awesome. We've had mixed success trying to do art contests recently, so if you have more success, come talk to the DEI committee so we can share methodology. That'd be great. And that's all. Thank you very much for your presentation.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Director Davidson?
Thank you, President. Just one question and maybe a comment buried in there. For Goal 3, I'm making some assumptions here, but I'm wondering if you could maybe make my assumption explicit here. Is within Goal 3 a expectation that included in here is electrification of buildings, or is that a separate item that is not included in any of these goals? So, for example, to replace natural gas with electricity.
Yeah.
It seemed like it fit most clearly in 3, but I didn't see it there.
Yeah, I think you're right that it's an important strategy that is not very clearly represented in this list at this time. So I definitely want to take that back and either expand it out or really clearly identify within here which strategy would support that. But I agree with you. Thank you for bringing that up.
Okay, thank you. And I guess I would just say I think it would be wise of us to make in the same way we have a policy for as vehicles reach the end of their life, we should probably adopt something similar for other high cost, pieces of equipment. So.
Yeah, great idea.
Any other questions or comments so far? No? Okay.
Okay. So to ask you all a couple questions to reflect on. I think maybe one I might want to start with. We talked a little bit that there's some differences between mitigation, where you're really trying to directly reduce emissions or look at that kind of regional picture by addressing ridership. But then there's also that focus on adaptation and resiliency and making sure that your fleet and your systems can continue operating successfully no matter what type of climate changes happen. I'm curious how you all kind of felt about that mix. Was it the right kind of mix of those two different approaches? Would you like to see more that's about kind of the direct fleet kind of pieces? I think there was a whole goal focused on that, but yeah, just kind of asking you to reflect on that mix of things, and does it feel right, or is there should it be kind of adjusted a little bit?
Anyone feel compelled to answer the question? Maybe if you could restate the question, or Director Davidson might be coming up with something.
I'll take a first stab at it. I think one of the challenges that I have with talking about climate adaptation is that it often seems, or it sometimes seems like a square peg round hole. Sometimes, like in the transit context, we think of it in terms of risk or operations planning. So like, you know, there's people in this room that when an ice storm is coming, they're preparing for it and they're thinking through, okay, how do we get the buses ready? I'm making some assumptions, but I'm willing to bet that the word climate outside of the strictly, you know, weather context doesn't cross their mind. And I think that's wholly appropriate. And so, you know, someone might call that climate adaptation. I don't particularly care what we call it. And so I'm far more concerned about how we do adapt to things that are changing. And so if we happen to call it climate and that's how we get it done, great, perfect. I'll call it pink unicorns. That's fine. But I'm more concerned about being able to provide the critical service to our community. So that's my initial thinking, and I guess I'm expressing some hesitation I have with the framework, I suppose, but happy to go along with whatever gets things done.
Okay, thank you. Did that spur any other thoughts from others on the board?
Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Hinojosa Presi. I think that it's a tough conversation to have. And I think a testament to that is how some of the stakeholders like the city of Keizer, Marion County, Polk County didn't respond. I feel like we can talk about climate when it's like snowing outside and nobody can leave their house, and so they recognize like, oh wow, this is an issue, or it's burning up outside and people are dehydrated and falling out. But outside of that, when it's a sunny day, like everybody's having fun. Nobody really knows what they could be doing to address the issue or contribute to being proactive on this issue. So I think it's a really tough discussion. I had another question that had to do with transitioning. There was a question that you had asked earlier, but I didn't click until recently. But it was about the stakeholder engagement when you're talking with folks and having these conversations. I was curious how the new initiative for the city of Salem to impose like fees on parking downtown Salem, has that like triggered that conversation with folks about like, well, maybe I could be riding because I want to be contributing to, greenhouse gas emissions, and I also save on parking. Like, has that come up at all?
Yeah, I mean, I think we heard some of that in that kind of first round of the stakeholder engagement, that those types of efforts by like the city of Salem will and should help make that shift, but I'm not sure how much it actually is at this point. I have a feeling there may be Cherriots folks who would know the answer to that question better than I do, but I think we would expect to see that.
Because I feel like,
and we may hear more in kind of that next round of engagement on that topic.
Awesome. Yeah, because I feel like climate action is a little bit easier to talk about when there's something else to piggyback off of. Which is just what I was trying to get to.
Director Duncan?
Yeah, and I think that could be a good example for us to share kind of in the next engagements that we do, and kind of see how people react to that example.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. I think what I like about this plan is that it's very in line with a lot of other initiatives and projects that we have going on. It kind of adds to, piggybacks on, or gives an additional reason to do some things that we're already looking at. Everything from, bus stops to, increased bike racks and first mile, last mile. Like, those are all things that we're already doing. And I think that sometimes we get caught up on the word climate or caught up on the word green, but at the end of the day, this is about resiliency and longevity and helping our community to be able to be resilient and to be a comfortable, happy place to live for a long time. And that's what I see in this report. I think it goes a long way to cater to all of those things. I think diversifying the fleet is one of the things that is important for that resiliency piece. We look at, I know that some of the conversations we had about, integrating electric was, well, what if the grid goes down? Or what if we have this problem or that problem? Having a fleet that's diversified with different types of fuel sources gives us the ability to be a bit more, have different options in the case of a crisis, et cetera. So I think that all of these things, they're good for the agency on a lot of different levels. And I like this plan. I think it's well balanced. I like that it draws in a lot of different components. It involves everything from staff to the public to the way that we look at the buses and the way that we, it touches all components of what we do. So I think it looks great. I think it is definitely, it bolsters the other work that we're doing and gives it an additional lens and additional motivation. And I think it looks good. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you for that feedback. Appreciate it. And I'll just add, I think that's a really good point that with the way it does tie onto a lot of Cherriots' other initiatives, it helps people who are working on those projects see themselves in this plan and a part of Cherriots' climate work going forward. Okay, I'll
Wait,
put another question.
1 second.
Oh.
I think I have something from Director
Yeah.
Laura Midkiff.
Oh, great.
Thank you. I think I'm losing the plot a little bit in this conversation. If I understood your question originally, it was around our reaction to the mixture of recommendations in the form of goals around between decarbonization and other efforts. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
so I think we were getting away
Well
from that.
stated.
My reaction to your question that you put to us is, I like the balance. I think we overemphasize. I think both Director Davison and Director Holmstrom, last time we talked about this, made an excellent point, which is that we kind of sometimes maybe focus too much on decarbonizing certain things and get away from the fact that it's already such a climate-friendly mode of transportation. And so how do we promote things like ridership and expand services? And I think that point is well taken and true and reflected in a healthy way in the kind of composition of the goals that you've outlined. As for more kind of what I would consider immaterial things, though important, kind of like around rhetoric and naming, it's a climate action plan. It feels kind of uncontroversial to me. I don't know. I appreciate the comments of my colleagues, but and it's at some level it doesn't really matter what other people think. I mean, our riders are concerned about climate. It pertains to climate. We're the ones doing the things. We're going to call it what it is, and we're going to do what we can to serve our riders. So that's just my comment on that. Third, I really did value, I think to Director Duncan's point, kind of allied to my response to your original question. I like that it focuses on things that we're already doing, and especially things like stops. I was just, excuse me, I was just spent a couple days in Tucson, which is, as Tom was mentioning before the meeting, is a very cold place to be, and they had a little bit of a cool spell when I was there. It was about 100 degrees, and there were very few stops that were covered, and I saw people really struggling in the heat. And it reminded me of a few weeks ago, I was out on Portland Road, and I saw people waiting in line at our own stops, and some people were sweating and pulling, kind of brushing their brows, and people were laying down and emptying their last drops of water. And I thought, oh my gosh, And so those sort of considerations are kind of top of mind for me. Not that we're a Tucson, and may we never be in those terms, but I'm sure there are plenty of wonderful things about Tucson. I don't mean that, but that we do think ahead for that, because to Ian's point, it is in service to our riders, and things like the recommendations contained in your goals, I think, get us closer to that aspiration and satisfy things like seats and covers that we've been spending a lot of time talking about here at the board. So thank you for these. I like the direction.
Mm-hmm. Are there any further comments on that topic?
I don't see any.
Okay.
Wait,
I think to add,
Sorry, one last question.
go ahead, of course.
So, is there going to be anything to try to like really engage the cities and the communities and the counties? And the reason why I'm concerned about that is because while like we're doing our part and we're purchasing renewable gas and all sorts of different buses and transportations and looking at installing shades and things like that, the city and the county can do its part too. I was walking in Keizer the other day and I noticed there was like some construction that was going up and they were installing a sidewalk, but there was no trees. And so to walk that stretch of road between bus stops, you're sweating and you're wiping your brow because you're just pouring down and there's no shade from the trees. And you would think it'd be something as simple as asking the city to install some trees when they're doing that in that easement. But if we don't have that investment from them and they're not seeing how they can contribute to this plan, then like we can only do so much. And so is there a strategy or a plan to try to get more investment from those stakeholders?
Well, I think the
I can take this really quickly. Yeah. So we just started with a visioning session, starting engaging with cities and the counties and ODOT and TriMet and LTD. And then the next step is strategizing. And then after that's making a plan locally for how we can help City of Salem with, working with them and how they can help us. So there'll be, we'll establish like a standing meeting and get a small group going to where all of these plans that we have going are complementary of one another and that we can all play our part. So that would be a strategy going forward, is to continue communication around the plans.
Awesome, thank you. Sorry, I was like spacing out because I was like, oh, it'd be a really good idea. We have a core network, and so that core network is our promise to the community to say that we're going to have routes. Do we have like a buy-in from the city to say like along these routes we're also going to have some rules and stipulations that say that they're going to put in trees, so on and so forth to make getting to and forward more easy?
So Director Navarro, I don't think it's that detailed, but an example of, because of the core network, is the elimination of parking requirements in development. So while it may not be tagged along with our plan, as a result of that core network, things are happening at least with the City of Salem.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, Director Lorman.
Yeah, thank you. Director Navarro's point is very well taken. The thing that I can speak to is that our HPS is very much aligned with the core network, our housing production strategy, and so where we put homes and build residential, and that's very connected. I will say though that your point shouldn't be passed by so quickly. I am deeply worried, both at the city level and at Cherriots, that we talk to each other too little and not consistently enough, and there are major assumptions that are made on the city's part especially that kind of require Cherriots to do 10,000 things and don't really provide scaffolding or wherewithal to get us there. And so some of it's hard because it's 20 years down the line, some of it isn't. I think things like, I think of like Keizer is a good example, I guess, but also like places like Lancaster where we need more canopy coverage, and there should be housing and not just these flat commerce areas, and make it more walkable given that we have a lot of route activity there. comes to mind. But we don't have a strong tradition. This is my own personal opinion, of these kind of intergovernmental collaborations on this topic in particular. And I think that is not just a mistake. It's a disservice, and it's one that compounds with every update, every new plan, every whatever. And I know these things are long term, but I really do wish that we had more thorough and collaborative collaboration both ways. And for me, I think the counties play a role in that, but the cities especially play a role with that. And even conversations around what are budget constrained capital projects doesn't happen. It's something that is furloughed every year on the city level, and it's just like, it's really hard. And I know that's maybe a bigger conversation, but it does relate directly to these sort of plans. Is how do we do that much more robustly? And I talked to planners at the city side, and there's, oh yeah, we'll reach out to Cherriots, and we will, and we'll talk about them. Well, we're due to meet for our annual thing. It's like, oh my gosh, guys, like, this is not acceptable. And I feel mad on behalf of folks who suffer the consequences of poor planning. And so, anyways, I really do want to emphasize Director Navarro's point, because it is very well taken and should be repeated again and again and again to ourselves and to staff. So, anyways, thank you for that little diatribe.
Yes, Director Carney.
Thank you, President Hinojos Presi. I just wanted to chime in because I agree so strongly with my colleagues. And as we were thinking about, this climate action plan, it really seems to me that we do need more. We need like climate action partnerships, because it does require more than us acting in isolation. And I think the integration and coordination of other forms and levels of government is a big part of the solution. And I think we're starting to see some of it, like the housing production strategy. And I keep looking at Goal 5, establish and grow partnerships, and I certainly hope that we can, because I think we can be stronger together and more effective on everyone's and future generations' behalf. And so I would lean into Goal 5 as much as we can.
Yeah, thank you for those many great comments. I want to just check if there was anything kind of any other further comments at this stage, but let me maybe just kind of ask the next question here. I think some of you have touched on this some, but I'd like to ask, based on your perspective, how much did these strategies align with community needs? If not, why? If so, I think on a few of those, but I'm definitely hearing, about the partnerships and, working together piece.
Director Larmenta.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't understand the question. So you said, how much do they align with community needs? Is that what you said?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Meaning what?
I guess, what you're hearing from people in the community about what they need from Cherriots, whether that's transit needs, whether it's, getting to certain locations in different ways, right? Just kind of what you all have been hearing as board members, did these strategies also help support some of those things that you have heard?
Yes.
Yeah, Director Davidson.
I would say that Goal 1 and 3 do that exceptionally well of the group.
Mm-hmm. And those were the ones on ridership, your transit infrastructure, 1 and 3. Great, thank you. Okay, well, let me ask another question, maybe before we wrap up this part of the agenda, which is to just kind of ask about kind of communication of progress. So I'm curious, what climate action progress would you like to see communicated? And maybe what are some, effective ways or ways that you want to see Cherriots kind of reporting out, whether that's public facing, or reporting back to the board on these types of on this work. Sorry. Is it being really public about, your emissions reductions so far and what you've done? Is it, just having that information available online for anyone who's looking for it? What would that look like?
Well, I think with the environment that we're in and seeing as how this is a really important goal for, I would say, everyone on the board, my motto is always that if you don't tell people that you did it, then you didn't do it. So I would absolutely very much push for a very public facing approach of communicating anytime we hit our goals. I mean, I know that with some folks it might not resonate as much, but I do think that it's important for people to know that we are actively undertaking this work. And it might even help add a little, I don't want to say pressure, I think that's a little hard word, a little friendly encouragement for some of our community partners that aren't engaging. Director Duncan?
Yeah, thank you. I agree that if we don't talk about it, we didn't do it. We have a lot of different initiatives that are going to be kind of coming through our communications department, though. So I would love to see this be worked in collaboration with them so that it can all be balanced nicely and come out cohesively. They've been doing some really great work, and I think that they'll be able to kind of help direct what the best thing to do to move forward is.
Director Davidson?
I think it's really, I agree with the comments of my colleagues. I think it's also really helpful in being transparent about what is needed to be able to achieve our goals. And so, for example, our goals and our partners' goals. So I'll use the goal of one of our partners, which is the City of Salem. They've indicated several years ago that in order to meet their goals as a city, they need to see Cherriots quadruple its ridership. And so we track ridership already. We publicly report ridership. So we could even have a dashboard. Ian Davidson, the same dashboard. A dashboard reporting our ridership, which we do, but we could have one focused on that specifically around the City of Salem's climate goal, but then state, okay, in order to achieve the goal within the timeline that the City of Salem has, here's how far we are from that, here's what we would need to achieve that. And because, I mean, if people presumably in the community care about this goal, we need to be upfront about what is needed to achieve that goal. Now, maybe that particular goal is not compelling to them. There are many other reasons why they would want to see an increase in ridership. And so a different goal will appeal to them, so.
Director Carney?
Thank you, President Hinojosa-Pressey. As much as I might want to make fun of your dashboard idea, I was kind of thinking something along the same lines, and I don't know, again, we can't do this in isolation. I don't know how we coordinate information from kind of these partner entities, partner governments about we've got the core network right here, and these changes have happened to, charging for parking, and we have located housing in these areas. Like, how do we bring that all together? And then the other thought I had is, when you go to fill up your water bottle at work, and it tells you how many water bottles have been saved, and you're like doing your part because you see the number change. I don't know how we give people the opportunity to feel like they are contributing. But it crossed my mind.
That was one of the suggestions, I think, in the memo to put it in the app, or maybe, or I hallucinated that? I don't know.
It was in
okay,
there.
it was
Yes.
in there.
Yeah.
Good. Okay. Yeah, of like how many trees saved or car trips avoided. Yeah, I like that idea.
And like you'll drink a half gallon if it means you're gonna get a nice big round number.
Okay.
Any last comments or questions before we wrap it up? Kayla, do you have any last comments?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure the slides are back up. I do want to just kind of share some of our next steps to let you know where we're going with all of this work. If that's coming back up, we are on number 20. Yeah, click 2 more ahead. Great. Oh, 1 more back. So similar to that visioning phase from the spring, you heard that we will be engaging both internal and external stakeholders on these sets of strategies, and I think that will really help kind of reinforce that partnership building, that we're having these conversations that'll hopefully continue, throughout the rest of this project, and then, during the life of the Climate Action Plan itself. We have met with the Cherriots executive leadership team to share these strategies so far. Our next group will be the departmental managers. And then on the kind of external side, we will be meeting with the local government partners again. We have had City of Salem, City of Keizer, and the Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments RSVP to that meeting. We did include Marion County and Polk County on the invite, so we would love to see them show up and be a part of that conversation. And then on the transit agency partner side, we will be doing a group with Oregon DOT, TriMet, and LTD. And I'll just kind of say that the focus of those conversations with the external stakeholders is to, talk more about those partnership opportunities and kind of learn, on the transit agency side, learn from any experiences that they've had with similar strategies, either, did or didn't work really well. So we'll get to hear from all of those folks. Next slide. And then just to kind of show you where we are in the big picture, I think this is a key milestone that we have these preliminary goals and strategies. Like I said, we're going to continue to engage stakeholders. We have also actually begun to draft the Climate Action Plan itself and all kind of the surrounding sections within that. And we'll keep, building out the action plans as well. So we're also going to be preparing to host a workshop with community-based organizations in August, and we'll have a public comment period at that point before returning back to the board and finalizing the Climate Action Plan in October. And then I have one more slide just to say a couple extra things about those next steps. Like we said before, we're going to continue refining, embedding these, take what we heard from you tonight and make some slight tweaks, but also use that to inform the action steps that we will build out around each of those strategies. We will also be kind of looking at kind of rough order of magnitude costs and emissions impacts from each of these, calling out, lead departments. I think something we heard tonight, that focus on partnerships. So I think with each of kind of the strategies and actions, we could call out some potential partners for each of those. And then we are going to do kind of a funding assessment to see, what opportunities might help support Cherriots' work in this area. So that's where we're going next. We really appreciated the really fantastic discussion from all of you tonight. Very pleased to hear really positive comments about what we presented tonight and feel like we're going in the right direction. You're welcome to pass along any further comments through Bobby following this, and we'll take all of those into consideration as we continue. So I'll just say one more time from our team, thank you to the board for your time tonight and your work on climate action planning for Cherriots. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your engagement. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Oh, I guess there's like a little bit of a round of applause there. Before you head off, I did just want to say that, in the refining of the strategies, I hope that we're also just making sure that we're reviewing some of the other like community surveys and information that we're getting, because I'm seeing that, I feel like a lot of the things that our community is asking for is getting reflected in some of those strategies, but I just want to make sure, based on the question of like, is this aligned with what our community is asking for, that we are actually taking the information that community has already given us in this implementation. So, okay. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. This brings us to the public comment portion of our meeting, and we do have one in-person sign up. That is our friend Tyler McCulley.
Well, I'm totally derailed from anything I'd planned. I'm actually kind of like being after that. I'm glad to say that I'm not the only one that's been having tech issues. And I was intending to be here about 4:50, early. I was waiting up at Hayesville and Portland Road, and I would have been on that 4 o'clock running of the number 3 that broke down. Anyway, Ms. Duncan, since you were like, I know you would think this was funny. So the presentation, so many acronyms, I feel like we need a dictionary. You guys are looking for ideas for community engagement. Make a random survey question. What does GHG stand for? Because, enough people will think it's like a drug or something. No one will ever guess that it stands for greenhouse gas. You could turn that into a Instagram post or something. Ideas free of charge. Laura, I like your idea about the water thing. That was excellent idea. Some sort of stat on one of the TV, page of stats on one of the TV display things. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I've been running around like I had my head cut off. It's been crazy the past few days. The World Beat Festival is tomorrow through Sunday. I've got an official shift, and I'll be pretty much there the entire weekend. But it might be hot, but get down there if you want to walk around. I will be around, so you'll see me on one of my vehicles. I don't know, but if you somebody that runs that stuff or email me, I don't care. You guys have my permission to pull my email or phone number off the system, especially if you're quote unquote off the clock. Because I'd even just like to be, or Sadie, if you want to ride a bike, let me know. Just, You guys have fun. Be safe. Stay cool.
Thank you. Okay, well, that brings us to our budget hearing, which this is, I will officially open our budget hearing. But this is our time designated for members of the public to testify before the board on the approved budget or programs within the budget. And I don't think we had anybody sign up for testimony in that. Okay, so that effectively closes the hearing. And then now we'll move on to our deliberation of budget hearing.
So I'll ask our Chief Financial Officer and our Budget Committee Secretary to please come forward.
Good evening, President Host Pressey and members of the board. It's my pleasure to welcome Nick Forty, Budget Committee Vice Chair, to present the Budget Committee recommendation.
Thank you very much, Director Pressey and members of the board. This is a letter on behalf of Kathy Lincoln, who unfortunately could not be here tonight, but in her stead, I'm going to make the presentation. So I'm pleased to present to you the Budget Committee's recommendation to adopt the FY 2026 budget for Salem Area Mass Transit District. The committee met on May 6, 2025 to review the proposed budget. So thank you to General Manager Pollock and district staff for all their hard work in preparing and reviewing the proposed budget with us. The committee voted unanimously to approve the proposed budget for fiscal year 2026 in the amount of $154,668,019 and taxes at the rate of 0.7609 per $1,000 of assessed value for operating purposes in the general fund. The budget has appropriated funds of $112,236,931 and an unappropriated total of $42,404,088. The FY 2026 approved budget includes funding for the comprehensive operational analysis, which is a critical project to ensure system performance is evaluated and to identify opportunities to improve efficiency and address unmet needs. While the comprehensive operation analysis is a major focus, the budget also supports key capital and operating projects such as land acquisition and design in the South Salem Transit Center, transit signal priority, paratransit bus replacements, fare system improvements, cybersecurity upgrades, safety and security enhancements, micromobility planning, full deployment of battery electric buses, and increased investment in staff development. The district is moving forward on a strong financial basis and will be able to continue to provide world-class customer service in the upcoming years. We all appreciate your commitment and hard work, and thank you for the opportunity to be part of the budget process.
Thank you very much.
So we are here tonight to request adoption of resolution number 2025-07 for the fiscal year 2025-26 budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes. In accordance with Oregon budget law, the Budget Committee reviewed and approved the FY 25-26 budget on May 6th of this year for a total approved budget of $154,668,019. Mr. Forty gave some details about the various capital projects and other projects budgeted for this next year, but I'd like to give you just a few other highlights. We are budgeting to utilize reserves by $15.2 million in FY 26. We budgeted to utilize reserves by $16.7 million in FY 25, but we are only estimating to use $1.6 million of that. But there are some reasons that I think are important to point out. An average since FY 12 to current, personnel costs have come in at 4.1% under budget, and that's due to open positions throughout the year. And the materials and supplies in that same time period since FY 12 have come in at 20% below budget. That's because we have project carryovers. We are very diligent about the money that we are spending. And I'd just like to note that the savings don't just happen. Each open position is analyzed each year, as is each expenditure and each project, to make sure that we are vetting each to make sure that our funding is spent appropriately. We are budgeting for revenue growth from FY 25 to FY 26 of 3.3% and an operating expense increase of 5.8%. Staff and the Budget Committee recommend the Board adopt resolution number 2025-07, thereby adopting the FY 2025-26 budget and imposing and categorizing property taxes. May I answer any questions?
Do we have any questions? Director Davidson.
Thank you, President Hinojosa. I expressed in the Budget Committee, well, first off, thank you for the presentation. In the Budget Committee, I had some questions and expressed some concerns around the deletion of the commuter options coordinator. And so I'm hoping you could maybe talk me through the process by which a position would be added, like how that would impact the budget, or what would need to occur budgetarily, because this position has sat vacant and we presently have the funding here, and by removing it from the budget, I assume it makes it harder to re-add the position to the budget. Is that an accurate assumption?
That can be handled through a budget amendment.
Okay, so it's a hoop that can be jumped through, but it's an additional hoop.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. Well, I appreciate your presentation. Do we have a motion to approve?
I move the board adopt resolution number 2025-07 to adopt the FY 2025-2026 budget, making appropriations and imposing and categorizing taxes.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the item? No? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that was unanimous. Motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, and now that brings us to our consent calendar. Is there anyone that would like to pull any items of the consent calendar?
Yes, President, there is. I would ask that we pull item 7B2 for discussion.
Oh, that's fun. Okay, yeah, so, because consent calendar is 7, and then routine business item B, and then 2. Fun. So we're pulling adopt resolution number 2025-08, amending CAC bylaws. So that will get deferred from our consent calendar. Do I have a motion to approve the rest of the consent calendar minus that one item?
I move that the board adopt the consent agenda with the exception of the item that Director Lara Midkiff removed.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 All right, unanimous. Motion passes. Now, items deferred from consent calendar. So item 7B2, adopt resolution number 2025-08, amending CAC bylaws.
I'd ask our Chief Operations Officer and Chief Employee and Labor Relations Officer to please come forward.
Good evening. Good evening. I don't feel like we see two chiefs leading in a presentation.
Go ahead. So tonight, Chief Dietz and I are here to present the finalized revisions to the Community Advisory Committee bylaws and the accompanying 6-month transition plan. Hopefully you all have copies of that. I think we received it at our work session. This work was a part of your, plural, broader directive to review all committee bylaws, and while others like STIFAC are still under review, the CAC bylaws were the ones specifically assigned to the two of us. Lucky us. We began this process with what we thought would be a focused update, specifically really just Section 3, which contains some glaringly outdated language, if I may say so, about eligibility and terms. But as we dug deeper, we realized the document needed more than a tune-up. It needed a structural overhaul. So that's what we did, and we're actually really grateful to have had the chance to bring it up to standard. We also want to recognize the CAC members who have continued to serve throughout this period. They've contributed time, they've contributed energy and insight, all while operating under a framework that was evolving around them. This update, we do want to say, is not a reflection of any shortcoming in their work. It's really just about making sure that the structure supports the overall mission. So if it's okay, I'd like to go over a couple of the highlighted changes. The bylaws themselves have expanded the CAC membership from 11 to 13 members and clearly defines eligibility categories, including youth, paratransit users, local employers, social services, and more. We also note that district employees would not be serving on the committee for obvious conflict reasons. We've clarified appointment and reappointment processes, including a limit of 2 terms and a 1-year break before reapplying. We are going to require an annual work plan that will be co-developed with the board and reviewed in a joint session. This keeps things focused and tied to actual strategic priorities. We also worked hard to define conduct expectations, including obviously respect, inclusion, and sticking to the agenda, which frankly would improve most holiday dinners too. To support the shift, we've included a 6-month transition plan. We hope you all have a copy of that. Current members will continue in legacy roles through the end of their terms, but they won't automatically be reappointed, and I think that's something that's important to note. Those roles will sunset respectfully with formal recognition and appreciation for their service. We have actually a kind of a cool little plan to go along with that. We'll also launch a proactive recruitment effort grounded in equity and transparency, and we'd love for the board's help in identifying strong candidates. Not that we'll completely rely on that, but we really feel like it's important that we lean on all of you. So now we know bylaws are not thrilling, but we promise this is the most excitement you'll get from a red line that doesn't involve a detour or a broken fare box. No, but all joking aside, these revisions have been reviewed and approved by legal counsel, and there's really nothing outstanding left on them. We're simply here to walk you through the changes that we've mentioned and prepare for formal adoption. Thank you for the opportunity and the trust to bring these bylaws into the present day. We're really happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you for cruising us through all that. And I also appreciate you for highlighting those changes, because I mean, I was gonna pop quiz the board, but you just walk them through it, so I guess. Do we have any questions or comments?
Sure. Thank you. And thank you, Chief Rose, for your introduction to a topic I'm sure everyone here has really acquainted themselves with in advance of this meeting. Anyways.
Okay, that pause.
I wanted to pull this for a couple of reasons. One, I think given the extent of the overhaul and this advisory capacity of this committee performs to this body, I thought it merited a discussion on that grounds. Second, when we were talking about service enhancements kind of perennially here, and we're talking about engaging the public and engaging a diverse public, I wanted to highlight some of the changes to the composition of the committee that we would like to see. I wanted to also just take a moment before diving into it to thank Sarah and Maria and Bill as my colleagues who have really taken the time to make sure that this was a transition and a change that would be fair and do right by the current members and service the district and therefore the public better, and to staff too who entertained our however many months of kind of prodding and back and forth. Thank you. And then lastly, I wanted to thank the current members, as you did, for their service to the district and their continued service. And even after their current roles are phased out, their possible continued service at that time too. And so none of that is precluded. I really want to share that the spirit of this change is to kind of reinvigorate community advice and consultation to the board, and to have that be as equal and engaging for both bodies as is possible. And because we really want to find ways to have this relationship be more robust, I'll just close by saying again that I really wanted us to talk about it, since it takes two to tango, and we should be engaged in these changes. And for just mild comedy relief, Chief Rose mentioned outdated language. I have to share the language that was outdated. One of the original potential categories for membership on the committee was an ethnic community member. So, oh, how far we've come. Which also just kind of underscores the importance of these sort of updates. More than every 3 decades, I think it was from the 90s. So anyways, now I'll leave it to you, Sarah, because you're the one who kind of led the charge on this one. But thank you to my colleagues for entertaining my need to talk about this.
Yeah, this was brought to the DEI committee, and it was, again, started just a small bit and expanded quickly to being a larger piece. It had started from, hey, maybe we want to review the different categories so that we can see something that's a bit more representative of our very evolving community in Salem. But it became so much more. I think that there's so much more that we can do to be directly engaging. On my 4 years on the board, I don't feel like that the engagement between the board and the community advisory committee has been what we'd like it to be. We want to have a more robust involvement. We want there to be a more structured, engaged and thoughtful way that we're making sure that that information is reaching the board, and that, you know, the thoughts and ideas coming from our community that are there to advise us properly. I think this document is significantly more reflective of that now. There's always some discomfort when there's a change from one version to another, and we did what we could to try to lessen that for the current members. We are so thankful for your work and for all of your commitment to everything that you've done with us, and we tried to provide avenues for that continued work even under the new structure. So hope to see those of you back who would like to be there, and if not, I hope you recommend more people to the board or to the committee so that we are able to continue to have that input. But yeah, this was a big project. There were a lot of months put into it, and I cannot underestimate how much time staff spent writing and rewriting and writing and rewriting all of our suggestions and requests. So thank you endlessly. And that's all I have on this. I'm really proud of this document. A lot of work went into it. I know that there will be revisions made in the future, but I'm very happy with what we're presenting now and excited to move forward with it. So thank you. Go. You have one more thing?
Just one more name that I forgot to mention, which is the clerk of the board. Did so many line edits and was very much engaged in this work, and I didn't mean to, but I totally forgot to mention that. So thank you, Kira, especially.
Yeah, definitely direct call out for Kira. Thank you.
And for this and all things.
Director Holmstrom?
Thank you, President. I have the privilege of serving as the board's liaison to the Community Advisory Committee, and I just want to reflect everything that my colleagues on the board have said tonight. We really do thank the members of the committee for all the service they provided. What I think these changes will do will serve our committee better in the future. It will set them up for success, whereas in the past, I think it hasn't been as useful for us as an agency, as staff, as the board, and that committee as it could be. So I really think this is a great step forward. I'm really happy to see the work that all the staff put into it, and I want to thank the DEI committee, the members of the committee of the board who really put a lot of time and effort as volunteers into this. It was great to see that and to work with them on that, and I appreciate all their work on that. Thank you.
Director Carney?
Thank you, President and Host Pressy. Tremendous work. Bylaws revision are a good time. I think any of us who have participated in that can agree. And just, I may have missed this in my read of the markup, but is there a minimum size or a number of seats allocated to this? And what is that number?
13.
13. And so if somebody is a Chamber of Commerce member and a local employer, then can we get another of something else?
I believe the document was written in such a way that when people apply, they indicate what their opportunities are, and then we, depending on the pool of applicants, allocate them to what we would like them to be representing. So when they sit on the board, they're representing from the perspective of whatever their assigned category is. You may be an employer, and you may also be a paratransit user, but if you're there to be an employer, we want to hear the bulk of your, feedback as an employer, or the bulk of your feedback as a paratransit user, with the respective intersectionality and knowing that those things are valuable. But the idea is to kind of try to make sure that we're getting that diversity of opinions. and reflecting the different categories. Yeah.
Thank you.
Does that explain
helpful. Yeah, totally. And then I would just note, I am not certain that you ever have difficulty filling all of these seats, or if any remain vacant, or if you've had turnover with a few people at a time. But you may want to refine your definition of quorum to be a majority of the people who are currently occupying seats. So if you currently only have 10 members, then quorum would be 6. Whereas, if you only have 6 and it's 13, then you don't have a quorum anymore. And so it's difficult to take action items and move them forward if quorum is just a majority of the seats. And if you have a few vacancies, it can get tough.
Thank you, Director Carney. That's helpful.
Director Lauren McKiff, do you have a comment or a question?
No, other than to say that I agree, and that was my understanding of what we landed on. It may not read, it could read more explicitly, but majority of members,
Page 7.
Yeah.
for quorum, it's just,
Well,
but you wanted to say something like
if
majority of appointed.
if your membership is 13 people and you say a quorum is a majority of that, then if we do the math, then we have to get to whatever half of 13 plus 1 is. But if we tried to change it for the advisory committee that I lead, but if it's designated in statute, you can't vary from the bylaws. But if you've not designated in statute, which this isn't, you can say a majority of the currently seated members or something.
The language says majority of members.
Okay,
So,
if that's clear enough for y'all, then I get hamstrung by state government and those laws all the time, so I'm a real stickler for.
I'd be happy to, I don't know what the protocol would be now, whether to edit it now and adopt it as edited, but that was the spirit of that language, and so if there's anything that you would like to see, to make it more formal.
If that is how it reads to this group.
It doesn't have to be how it reads, it matters how it is read, period.
I do think it's fine because it says in membership, the committee shall consist of up to 13 members. So whatever the membership is.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, our legal counsel has reviewed this,
Relieved and entirely comfortable. Thank you. Thank you, board.
Thank you. I was about to be like, we asked if there was questions. You had homework.
I did want to just highlight one thing that I think Hayal touched on briefly, but for us is worth kind of spending a second on, which is the nature of the collaboration, which is at the outset of a calendar period for the work of the CAC. That'll be co-created with the board. So whereas in my almost 2 years here, we haven't really had any collaborative sessions with the CAC, that'll be a prerequisite for them to do the work they need to do. And so they will know pretty explicitly what it is that we want them to do and what they should be doing and the steps to do that. And so there's that kind of scaffolds their work and in turn, I think, empowers them to do what they need to do and then allows them to be in service to the agency and to us as they ought to be. And so anyway, so I just wanted to kind of highlight that for the board too, that's something that we should expect upon adoption, is to be able to really meet with them to co-create the priorities for the work of the committee.
Director Davidson?
Thank you. I guess 2 questions. One is, in my review of this, I didn't see anything that would preclude the CAC membership from, perhaps in the future, receiving compensation. Is that correct?
That's correct, Director Davidson.
Okay, great, thank you. And then this obviously does not rise to the level of charitably datedness of ethnic, but does citing a FTA circular put us in a position where in 3 years there will be a new FTA circular and we'll have to be playing catch up?
Thank you for your question, Director Davidson. There sure could be that situation, but at the end of the day, it's our responsibility to maintain these updated, and so it would be our responsibility to go and adjust that when the time came.
Okay. I hope we do that, and, yep, that sounds great.
I mean, I think it gives us a reason to just come back in and check back in. I do want to say that it wasn't decades. This was formed in 2017, or reformed. And I have immense care and appreciation for our CAC members and the current membership, as well as the previous membership, because the CAC was the way that I began interfacing with Cherriots. I was the ethnic member, thank you very much. And now I get to serve here with you fine folks, and it does feel like a gutting, but it was a labor of love, and immense care went into it, and I really hope that the offboarding of our CAC members get to feel that, because we do really appreciate all their time and efforts. Okay. Alrighty, so now I think what we need to do is approve or adopt resolution 2025-08 amending the CAC bylaws. Do I have a motion?
I move that the board adopts resolution number 2025-08 amending the CAC bylaws.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? None? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, unanimous, motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so action items 9A, authorized purchase of battery electric buses. General Manager Pollock.
Yes, thank you. I'll ask our maintenance manager, Zach Leith, to please come forward.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. I'm coming before you tonight to ask the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Gillig for the purchase of two 40-foot battery electric buses to replace two 40-foot diesel buses in the amount not to exceed $3,600,000. With the purchase of these two buses and the 10 we already have in stock now, or here now, and then we have 10 more on order in December. That'll put us a total of 22 BEBs, which will be a little over 30% of fleet ratio for BEB buses. With these buses, it'll help lower Cherriots' carbon footprint overall. And staff recommends the board to authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Gillig for the purchase of two 40-foot BEBs in the amount not to exceed $3,600,000. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Do we have any questions on this item? Director Navarro?
Thank you, President Nahos Pressy. We were talking about our climate action plan earlier, and looking to explore the idea of purchasing hydrogen buses. And a thought came to my head about what does training look like for mechanics that are transitioning from working on compressed natural gas vehicles or renewable diesel vehicles to be able to learn to work on electric buses, and what is our capacity right now to ensure that we have the mechanics to service those vehicles?
The basic shell of the bus is the same. The brakes, the suspension, all that stuff's the same. It's the drive, the engine versus the electric side of it. And it's a big change. There's a lot of stuff you have to learn. We do have a grant with a lot of training money in it right now to do training for our mechanics and stuff. But it's hard to find the training. There's not a lot out there. We're doing what we can to find it. We do have an in-house trainer that's learning a lot, and he's helping find these trainings and get our people trained up so they're safe. And we're, I guess Tom has some ideas on.
Thank you for that question, Director Navarro. It is a challenge, so part of the FTA requirement now in a low-no emissions grant is a very large chunk of that grant must be spent on workforce development. And we were really excited to have $300,000 to spend on training. A lot of the training we did receive, especially from the manufacturer, Gillig, was free. And so it's hard to spend money when you can have free training. We are still scouring the globe for training that we can provide. It is, I'm going to make it really kind of oversimplified, really. It's like Zach said, the shell of the bus is a Gillig bus, whether it's 35 feet long, 40 feet long. We do have arc flash training for the high voltage, general high voltage training, tools that are needed to handle that. Hydrogen outside of the high pressure gas, we have that now with our renewable natural gas, but we don't know what that would look like. And honestly, we're kind of pumping the brakes, pun intended, on new technologies to make sure that we solidify our fleet as it is now. But as a person who's can't sit still when it comes to training, we're going to continue to look for additional training. It's not a bad idea to send our mechanics and technicians and service workers through additional training on an annual basis if we can find it. But we're just, right now, we're having a hard time finding that training specific to battery electric buses. It's like general high voltage type training.
Thank you. A quick follow-up. Does retraining look like one-off like workshops, or does retraining look like going back to college and getting another degree that specializes in renewable energy engineering or something to that effect?
Yes, all of the above. So to give you kind of an idea of what we are looking for is especially for our journey mechanics, we're looking at virtual reality style training so they can actually, without getting hurt, pick up a transmission and pull it apart in the air. And then we're a proponent of allowing folks to go get further education, tuition reimbursement program here at the district. So we certainly make that available to them. So it could be all of the above, a combination of all of that.
Perfect, thank you.
You bet.
Wonderful. Any other questions on this item? Yes, Director Laura Midkiff.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Manager Leith, for your presentation and your recommendation. 2 questions. One was, any updates around, we were having some trouble with, I'm going to get it wrong, but
The induction charge.
the induction charging, but particularly, I forget what it was exactly that wasn't working, but there was some kind of growing pains there. So my, what is it now, bi-monthly question about how that's going. And then secondly, where, if we know, will these buses be put to use? Like what routes, what areas?
The first part for the inductive charging, we have 3 bays at Keizer. They've been working on Bay F lately, and that's been kind of the problem child lately. They've fixed it according to them. We're still trying to do some testing on it to make sure that it's working like they're saying. And then the other problem has been the VA pads on the bottom side of the buses. So that's the part underneath the bus when you kneel down, everything comes up through. They're having internal issues with those. They've come up with a new manufacturer for those, so they're slowly, and a new machine to make them. So we just received 4 last week, another 2 today. They're supposed to be sending us 8 more on next Friday. So we're hoping to get them all done by probably end of July-ish is where they're saying we should have them all here and on the bus and hopefully working. So that'll help.
And do we get charged for that?
No, not right.
Okay.
No, they're paying for all that. We do help them install just
Right.
to kind of speed the process up, but they're paying for all that, yes.
Thank you. And for where the routes, which routes are the buses going to be? If we know, we may not know. It's fine.
Thank you for that question, Director Larmick. We do have some routes identified in the grant. In their grant, shouldn't be too big of a surprise, but they're routes that will go through Keizer. So we're looking at, and I believe it's Route 14, possibly the 9 and the 19. And that's just because we have the inductive pickup charging up there. So those are in italics because they're not really 100% sure. But I do believe that the Route 14 is the next route according to the grant.
Thank you.
Director Davidson?
Thank you for your report, Manager Leith. Will these two battery electric buses be added to the order that's already in for the, I believe it's 10?
Thank you for your question. Yeah, so the 10 that are already in now go on production December 8th, and they're trying to squeeze us in close as they can to those. But we haven't got an actual date yet. We have to get my PO first.
Got it, okay. And then, so for the if we're lucky enough and they're able to squeeze it in, when might we expect, well, let's say the 10?
I believe the 10 are scheduled for 1st of February, in middle of February. Tom?
It should be March, April is when we should start seeing the first one roll into Del Webb, and then the others as soon as they're into production, 6 to 8 weeks after they go into production.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay. No other questions? Would anyone like to make a motion?
Sure.
Yes.
I move the board authorize the general manager to execute a contract with Gillig for the purchase of two 40-foot battery electric buses for an amount not to exceed $3,600,000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion on the motion? No? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. And I do want to say that 22 is my lucky number, so I'm excited that we'll have 22 electric buses. And then just procedurally, we do have to go back to our CAC bylaws because our motion was misstated. So we just need to go back and fix that.
So we need to, if you could read the proposed motion.
Yeah. Do you want to do it, Sarah, or do you want me?
Go for it, you got it, Brian.
I move that the board adopt resolution number 2025-08 or 08, so that's not to confuse anything else, to restate and replace the Community Advisory Committee bylaws to better reflect the committee's intended purpose and structure and to ensure broader representation of the communities we serve.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay. Now back to item 9B, our budget amendment. General Manager Pollock.
I'll ask Chief LaRuda, please come back up.
Good evening, President Hinojosa and members of the board. I'm here to present Resolution 2025-11, amending Resolution 2024-01 to transfer funds between appropriated categories in the FY 24-25 budget. The district adopts the budget at the division and fund level in accordance with Oregon State budget law. Throughout the year, staff monitors the actual expenses to determine that all divisions and funds are within budgeted appropriations. Staff projects that a budget amendment of $450,000 is needed to transfer $300,000 to the Communication Division for community engagement and related costs, and to transfer $150,000 to the General Administration Division for district-wide benefit costs and professional services. These funds are being transferred from the Operations Division, which is well within budget. The combined transfer is 0.7% of the general fund budget. Per ORS 294.463, appropriations can be transferred within a fund or between funds during the fiscal year by the authorization of the governing body through resolution. There is no net increase in the total FY 24-25 budget with this proposed resolution, all within the general fund. Staff recommends the board adopt Resolution 2025-11 to amend the FY24-25 budget by appropriation transfer and authorize the transfer within the general fund of $300,000 to the Communications Division and $150,000 to the General Administration Division from the Operations Division for a total of $450,000. May I answer any questions?
Any questions? No? Director Laura Midkiff, you're giving me a very perplexed face.
Just my face, Madam President. I will say, not a question, but a comment briefly now that I've been prompted is that I think this is needed and I would support this transfer.
Thank you very much. Okay,
I'd like to make a motion.
go ahead.
I move that the board adopt Resolution 2025-11 to amend the fiscal year 2024-25 budget by appropriation transfer and authorize the transfer within the general fund of $300,000 to the Communication Division and $150,000 to the General Administration Division from the Operations Division for a total of $450,000 as detailed in this memo.
I'll second.
We have a motion, any second, any discussion on the motion? And we have like 4 days left in this fiscal year, we're still coming right in under the wire. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you very much. All right. In my imaginary schedule that I have you all on, we're ahead of time. So now we're going to go on to item 10, informational reports, creating community connections project brief, which say creating community connections 5 times fast, please.
I'll ask Chief Rose to come up and provide the brief.
Good evening again. Good evening, President Hinojosa-Pressy and members of the board. I'm so pleased to provide a comprehensive update on our service enhancement campaign that we call Creating Community Connections. Since our last formal update, I hope that it will come as no surprise to you that we've been moving steadily forward both on the public-facing side of the campaign and on the operational and administrative work that supports it. At a really high level, our team continues to focus on the accuracy, clarity, and accessibility of all the campaign materials from the website and public survey to the signage that we've made, video content that I believe some of you have quite enjoyed, and our tabling strategies. We've been really deliberate and meticulous, if I may say, because we understand the importance of building trust and engagement through every detail, as well as holding each other accountable as any strong and collaborative team should. In that spirit, General Manager Pollock and I have been working closely to refine several key pieces of the campaign, namely the frequently asked questions that will face our community audiences and some quick facts to go along with them. We've also been working on an internal frequently asked question document for our frontline staff so that they feel supported as well, and both the community and business presentation slide decks, which will serve as consistent and adaptable tools as we meet with stakeholders across our communities. These refinements are part of a larger effort to ensure message alignment. So really what we mean by that is whether someone is riding the bus or talking to one of our operators or attending an event, reviewing our website, they're hearing the same clear and informative story. I also want to take a moment to respond to Director Davidson's specific request for an update on our tabling plans at our last board meeting. That schedule of information was provided at our Service Enhancement Committee subcommittee meeting last week in person and I believe electronically. And if all of you have not already received that, I'm sure our board clerk / magician, Cherriots, can share with the rest of the board if we haven't already. She's disappeared. And on that note, I can happily say that we kicked off our tabling events last week at Keizer's Public Works Day. It was a pretty nice turnout, despite Oregon's, being emotional with its weather, just a wee bit emotional with its weather. I'd like to call that our soft launch. We had the delightful opportunity to test out some of our ideas, gauge what worked, what went well, what we hadn't considered. Such as when it's really windy, we might need zip ties to strap some things down. So we also looked at what was missing, what worked really, really well, and then we went through and we're right now kind of mending the cracks and smoothing the edges in time for Fun Fridays in July. So we sure hope that you know that you're welcome to join in the fun, and if that wasn't a large enough hint, hint, hint. All right, let me further emphasize that for all of these events, our goal is not just to show up, but to provide a whole experience, one that's engaging, one that's fun, one that is educational, curious, collaborative, thought-provoking, and rewarding. This is, after all, the Creating Community Connections campaign, right? So to that end, we've worked alongside the Terrell Group in our joint effort to refine the format and presentation of our event materials, specifically activities, the visuals, making sure that they're genuinely engaging and informative. Spoiler alert, some of them have a little bit of glitter. Did you all receive the very glittery fun things? Happy days. Okay, good. So we've already ordered a lot of, actually all of our supporting materials like banners, stickers, and interactive games, and we are preparing our internal teams to represent the project with clarity, confidence, and enthusiasm. What's really lovely, and I'm going to take a moment to talk about this, when we think about these tabling events, a lot of times families are included. And what happens is either the kids are bored out of their mind or the kids are leading the show, right? So what's really, really lovely is that as folks reviewed this plan, they immediately started thinking about their kind of familial experience and decided to really focus on the lens of their own kids. And what would our kids like? What would they not like? What would they need in order to feel valued, to feel seen and important in this experience? And I think that's really, really sweet. And that instinctively led them to suggest some very thoughtful enhancements to something that was already really quite well structured. And while, again, that's honestly pretty heartwarming, I'd be remiss not to point out to all of you that that's exactly the level of care, warmth, and intentionality and integrity that's driving this work. Alongside our outreach efforts, we've been advancing several key internal work streams like providing detailed ongoing feedback on campaign materials, again, including those video scripts, frequently asked questions, and signage to ensure the language is accurate, clear, and community focused. Of course, we're elevating our approach to translations. We've moved beyond literal translations and are now working to interpret tone and meaning in a way that will truly resonate with our Spanish-speaking community members, whilst we search for some stronger options for ensuring that appropriate interpretation. We're deepening our coordination with the outreach and planning and development teams to ensure alignment and readiness on both messaging and operations. And again, planning has been absolutely phenomenal and such a thoughtful work partner, so we're really grateful for them for that. Importantly, we continue to maintain the culture we've been working on as a team, which constitutes that candid and constructive feedback both internally and with our vendor partners. And while this is still a growing practice, we've seen real progress and it helps us produce stronger, more consistent work, and we really appreciate all of your support in that too. Certainly there are some key areas we're actively managing, such as, again, maintaining that high standard for translation and inclusive communication. We're working to anticipate summer staffing schedules, right? Internal capacity constraints happen sometimes during the summer, so we need to manage that in order to ensure that we're staying absolutely on track. And also preparing our staff, especially those who will be interacting with the public, so that they're informed, they're also feeling supported, and they're ready to answer questions. So that really brings us to what's next, and that's operational readiness. As materials continue to take shape, we're shifting our focus from creation mode to preparation mode. What do I mean by that? So think of creation mode as deciding what dishes should go on a menu. And preparation is getting all of the ingredients ready. So we've already decided on the dishes, now we're getting our ingredients ready. And so what that looks like for us right now is preparing the people. equipping the frontline staff and outreach staff with knowledge and resources that they need to speak confidently about the campaign. Scheduling those presentations with neighborhood associations, business leaders, and community groups, and ensuring those who represent Cherriots in those spaces are prepared with clear messaging and trusted answers. So I'll end my prepared comments with this. The board has placed such trust in us to carry this campaign forward thoughtfully and strategically, and we really do take that seriously. And as such, we continue to be energized by this work, and the team is so happy to start seeing the fruits of their labor, and we also love the stickers. All in all, this is a critical and exciting phase of the project, and I look forward to keeping you informed as we continue to build momentum and as we go on into the next stage. And as ever, I am so happy to take any questions that you might have.
Okay, I'm gonna jump the gun here and say, so I heard that these are like a test and you get sorted into which one you are?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so kind of like a survey, instead of which Harry Potter house are you on, they are what kind of writer are you? So that's the survey they take, and we have one for kiddos, and we have one for not kiddos, or however one wants to identify. They can take whatever survey they want, and then you get your sticker.
Do we put like a steering wheel on their head while they get sorted or something?
We have not ordered that off of Amazon, but I'm happy to noodle on it if you'd like.
I will say that I do have one serious complaint about this. You gave us the stickers, but you're not giving us the test?
President, you are just everything,
Okay.
so.
All right, valid save. Thank you. I will say the other thing too is that these remind me of like the listening badges on like Audible, you know,
Oh,
like for
they
rereading or
don't
how
do.
long. So I also wonder, you know, Big Dreams is like if we could incorporate it to like people's like UMO apps or something that's like you've taken so many trips, so you're like the adventurer, or like you've ridden our least frequented route, so you're the trailblazer or something like that. Anyway, I hear oohs.
And ahs, yes, that sounds amazing. Thank you for that idea, President.
Any questions or other comments? They're not going to be as great as mine. Director Navarro.
Thank you, President Hinojosa Pressy. Thank you for solving the mystery. I seen these on the desk, and I thought, I was thinking what you were thinking. I was like, well, how many rides do I have to ride to be the trailblazer? And then I was thinking, no, this is probably more like Pokemon Go, where if I get off somewhere, I can get the Adventure Rider sticker. And it would all be through the UMO app. But no, anybody can just get them, so thank you.
Bad luck.
All right. Yes, Director Holmstrom.
Thank you very much. I like the sticker. Have these all been printed already? And they're all, okay, great. I was on the bus the other day, and I saw some of, I think, the collateral up at the front where that has the survey links, I think both in English and Spanish. And the words that it used was not creating community connections. It was
Transit for tomorrow.
Transit for tomorrow, yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the choice around that?
Yes, thank you for that question. So the project itself, or the campaign itself, is creating community connections, but we need to be able to communicate that to our audience, and the way we communicate that to our audience is, what are we doing, not for today for Cherriots, but for tomorrow, or in essence, the future. And we also liked the alliteration, so we picked Transit for tomorrow.
Yeah, I have no problem with it. I was just curious. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Director Davidson.
I love that. I know we have in the subcommittee talked about how service enhancement can feel distant and jargony, and so Transit for tomorrow. I at least I instantly get it, whereas service enhancement, it took me years to figure it out. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Y'all are 2 minutes ahead of my imaginary schedule. General Manager?
Great, thank you. I do have a few comments, and my first one will kind of piggyback on the Creating Community Connections update. You've all received a meeting invite for our Business Community Roundtable on July 31st. More info to come as it gets closer, but if you have a schedule conflict, please let me know. But I think that worked for everyone when we secured that date. So earlier, immediately preceding this meeting, the Joint Committee on Transportation Reinvestment held a public hearing and a work session on House Bill 2025, which is the transportation package. The public hearing was held. I did submit written testimony, kind of in my role as the Vice President of OTA, but I threw a few Cherriots things in there as well. We also provided a statement to Coin News, who was doing a story on the hearing earlier this afternoon. As a result of the public hearing and work session, the committee did vote in favor of advancing the bill to the House floor. And so I imagine that will happen tomorrow since we're running out of days, and then potentially to the Senate. If you've been following along in the news, that the transportation package has gotten a lot of press and discussion. The amendment, I think it was -23, or whatever, the amendment that was passed today had a variety of changes from the previous package. Many of the proposed fees were removed or modified or lowered. I can tell you the transit proposal did not change. It remains an increase on January 1st to 0.18, and then next biennium 0.25, and then the third biennium 0.3. So we were very pleased that it may have been the only fee that didn't get changed, so we will wait to see what happens. We need to see if it makes it through, and then, if you've been reading the paper, it potentially could be subject to a referendum, and we'll have to monitor that. But we couldn't get to any of that until we made it out of committee, and it did that today on a 8-4 vote, and it was bipartisan. Representative Mannix did vote in favor of it. I will say he made a comment that he doesn't believe the payroll tax is the best funding source for transit, but he did feel the importance of passing the bill, and he did comment on the impact testimony that was made throughout the state on the need for public transit. So, and then my last item, so you should have a copy of a TransDash Performance Summit flyer. So if you remember last year, TransDash, which is our performance dashboard under the TransPro auspices, had their first annual meeting, and we received a variety of awards. Well, this last 2 days, they held the second annual meeting, and you can see here we've received 9 awards, 4 third places, 2 second places, and 3 first places, as compared to the peers that participate in the TransPro program. So I just want to highlight the first place ones. The ridership change from 2021 to 2024. That's the increase in ridership for that 3-year period. Also, job access by transit from January to March 2025. We were in first place. And the cost per customer trip changes from 2021 to 2023. We came in first. So more validation of the good work that Cherriots is doing for the community. And so we were not able to attend this year. It was on the East Coast. So we will receive our awards in the mail, and when we receive those, we'll be sure to share them with the board when we get those. And that concludes my report for tonight.
Awesome. I'm going to get started on my left with Director Davidson.
Thank you, President. So my, I think, only real substantive report is coming from the Council of Governments. We have been tracking a few different issues at the legislature, among them, obviously, the transportation package. We'll see how that shakes out, as General Manager Pollack indicated. One thing I'll note is that we did have our quarterly Board of Directors meeting on the 17th, where we also adopted an annual budget. Last month in my report to you all, I mentioned that there was a high likelihood that the Council of Governments would be impacted by the federal government changing their, what's known as an indirect rate. Well, that happened. I'm gonna get the dollar figure incorrect, but it was, I believe, in the ballpark of $250,000 hit to their budget. And so it was a pretty significant hit to what is a rather small budget, particularly comparative to Cherriots. And so we had some conversations both at the executive committee and then ultimately at the full board. And so in addition to what was already an adopted phase-in rate increase for services, because the cost of services that the COG provides to member governments and partner organizations, so whether you pay for planning services or GIS services or transportation planning services, they're below market rate. And that makes a lot of sense if you do it for certain services. So if you're a Costco member, for example, the rotisserie chicken at the back of the store is at the back of the store to get you to walk to the back of the store. It's sold at a loss for a reason. Now, if you do that for every single product that you have, it doesn't pencil. And so myself and a few others on the board have helped create a path for the COG to get to a place of better financial footing. This change at the federal level has slightly upended that plan. And so in addition to the plan that we had already adopted, which was the phased-in approach, the board is implementing or did adopt a 10% overhead rate increase. And in 6 months, there may yet be another rate increase. And so this is all being communicated to member governments. That being said, these are all still services that are, incredibly affordable. The people that work at the Council of Governments are, there's a reason why people choose to work with the Council of Governments. They're public servants who know the rules at DLCD, DEQ. They know their stuff. Anyways, because we're a member and we pay dues and we occasionally partner with Council of Governments, I felt it incumbent for me to pass that along. So that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Director Larmitkiff?
I have no report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Director Carney?
Thank you, President and host Pressy. Unfortunately, due to a personal conflict, I was not able to attend the SCATS Policy Committee meeting earlier this week, but I will review the minutes when they come out, and I look forward to attending next month. And as I stated before the meeting started, on Make Music Day in Salem, which is on the solstice, or June 21st, it rained like the dickens, as others have pointed out. And as a result, I don't know that it was climate related, but I did ride the bus on that day, and I got to provide a lot of UMO education to folks at Make Music Day and different events, and it felt really good. I think that maybe that should be like a side hustle for me, just a little UMO education, get to the educator badge. Anyway, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Director Duncan?
Unfortunately, due to an appendicitis, I did not attend quite a few things this month, but I'm here, and I do have a report for the DEI subcommittee. We just reviewed the summer tabling events. They all sound fabulous. I'm so excited. Please come out and see us. Our goal is simple, which is to show up, listen, and build trust. We're going to be out in the community quite a bit, and we hope to see you out there. I'm really excited about the new materials and such that are coming out of the communications team. It's going to be a blast. I cannot wait. And we also talked a bit about our increasing emphasis on language and accessibility. It was a light meeting, which I appreciated. And then the other thing I want to say is that 10 years ago today, marriage equality was ruled legal by the United States Supreme Court, and that's worth a yay. So, yay! And that's all.
Hey. Director Holmstrom?
Thank you. The Community Advisory Committee did not meet this month, so I do not have a report. Thank you.
Wow. Director Navarro?
Thank you, President and host Pressy. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to make the STIFAC meeting. It seems like it was a busy month for everybody,
You know
right?
what? I think Director Davidson gets the badge of actually achieving some work this month.
Is that the green one? But, so I unfortunately missed the presentation on Cherriots' application for the call center to support mobility management, the shop and ride, preventative maintenance and purchase service. So I apologize for that. But I will make the coffee with Kathy, which is Saturday at 9. Hopefully I can make that, because we are supposed to be ending work. I work at the legislature, for those that don't know, and constitutional sine die is on Sunday, but there's rumors that we might end on Saturday. So that means I'm working on Saturday, but hopefully not. And but one of the benefits of working at the Capitol is that I got to see that the city of Keizer is on track to receive $750,000 for the Keizer Rapids Park synthetic turf fields. So that was really awesome to see. And I just got to give a shout out to Team Cherriots, David, Brian, and Hael for supporting me. I ended up I got invited to share my story on public transportation to advocate for securing some of those funds through the transportation package that's being debated right now. So it was really nerve-wracking, but I had the support of you all there, and I really appreciate that. So thank you. And that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. I will just make a shout out for our board members to remember to update your service log hours. I know that I am also at fault for not making sure to fill these out. So I know that the rest of y'all are probably also not filling them out. So just a reminder there. And it is now 7:45, and I call this meeting adjourned.